give us messages in a variety of different ways. Law of attraction and how they work in our lives. And yep, I have Holly's permission to use this story, so feel free to ask her questions below in the comments, and she'll answer them for you. Hey everybody, it's Stacy from the Key to Soul Awakening. Before I move on and explain the answer to the question, if you're new to this community, click the subscribe button and don't forget to hit that bell so you're alerted every time I post a new informative video on the topic of life and spiritual awakening and everything in between. So let's break down this answer into 4 parts. What is free will? What is intuition? How does the law of attraction work in soul contracts? And finally, how do we know if we have completed a soul contract? What exactly is free will? Free will is the ability to choose our actions rather than being forced one way or the other. Earth is one of the few incarnations where free will exists. When choosing to incarnate on Earth, we agree to exchange the luxury of having free will in our life in exchange for the veil of forgetfulness when we're born. The veil of forgetfulness clouds all memory of any soul contracts or agreements we made before this lifetime. It also clouds any memory of past lives or past incarnations on any other planets or universes. We basically come in with a clean slate. But really that clean slate has a whole lot in there, we just don't remember it. So the alternative to having free will is knowing exactly what we planned, but having no choice in the life that we live. That sounds positively dreadful to me. So for the purposes of this question, consider your life right now and understand that you are where you are right now due to every single choice you have made in your life. I've had many people ask me the question or tell me the statement, I don't have a choice in life. This is just what I have. These are my circumstances. How is that my choice? Somebody who's held captive in a prison always has the choice to try to break out of that prison. The consequences of that action are something different than choice, and it is something we need to consider when we're talking about free will. Consequences don't always have to be bad. The consequence of breaking out of a prison could be that a person finds freedom and lives a long, happy life. Maybe there's a lesson that we've contracted to learn in our soul contracts by trying to break free of the prison. But as humans, we always think in terms of fear on Earth. The choice we fear the most, breaking out of the prison and being killed, to use this example, usually stops a person from even trying. Would you rather live a long, miserable life in prison or try for freedom and happiness? Fear is the common thread throughout all of these topics. In free will, many of us allow fear to stop us from the choice we would rather make. We must not live in fear. We must not let fear stop us. When I started to explore this concept a few years ago when I was in a very deep depression, I thought about my friend Holly. The reason that Holly was my go-to person for this concept is because I really did not like the idea that I created my life circumstances. But Holly's story is so amazing that I could not ignore it. Holly lived in a real-life prison with her abusive husband. She ignored her intuition, she ignored her family and all of her friends that told her that this man was not good for her. She even ignored a near-fatal car accident that was meant to wake her up and leave her then fiancé. She went into that marriage full of love and hope and good intentions. What she was met with were difficult situations, control, and abuse. They had an adorable daughter together, and Holly thought everything was going to get better. But you know what? It didn't. And then she sunk into a deep depression because she thought she was trapped in a prison. Then one day, Holly found a card in her purse that her sister had given her months before, to a women's shelter, and she decided to follow that gut feeling that said maybe I should call somebody after she had told herself for years and years that she was not in an abusive marriage. Sadly, Holly had been blaming herself for all the marital troubles, and her husband was right behind her blaming her too. When she went to the women's shelter and met with the therapist, Holly was shocked when the therapist held her hand and told her she was indeed in an abusive marriage. Holly didn't want to believe it then either. It took her months to realize how trapped she really was. The scariest thing Holly could ever think of was trying to leave her husband. On why they can't speak directly to us. In a nutshell, spirit guides give us messages in a variety of different ways. The higher our vibration is, the easier it is to communicate back and forth with our spirit guides. Which is why I'm always saying raise your vibration. Raising our vibration is fairly simple. We just have to stay positive, lead with love, and allow no negativity, anxiety. I'm going to use my friend Holly's experience in an abusive marriage to illustrate all three topics: free will, intuition, and the law of attraction, and how they work in our lives. And yep, I have Holly's permission to use this story, so feel free to ask her questions below in the comments, and she'll answer them for you. Hey everybody, it's Stacy from the Key to Soul Awakening. Before I move on and explain the answer to the question, if you're new to this community, click the subscribe button and don't forget to hit that bell so you're alerted every time I post a new informative video on the topic of life and spiritual awakening and everything in between. So let's break down this answer into 4 parts. What is free will? What is intuition? How does the law of attraction work in soul contracts? And finally, how do we know if we have completed a soul contract? What exactly is free will? Free will is the ability to choose our actions rather than being forced one way or the other. Earth is one of the few incarnations where free will exists. When choosing to incarnate on Earth, we agree to exchange the luxury of having free will in our life in exchange for the veil of forgetfulness when we're born. The veil of forgetfulness clouds all memory of any soul contracts or agreements we made before this lifetime. It also clouds any memory of past lives or past incarnations on any other planets or universes. We basically come in with a clean slate. But really that clean slate has a whole lot in there, we just don't remember it. So the alternative to having free will is knowing exactly what we planned, but having no choice in the life that we live. That sounds positively dreadful to me. So for the purposes of this question, consider your life right now and understand that you are where you are right now due to every single choice you have made in your life. I've had many people ask me the question or tell me the statement, I don't have a choice in life. This is just what I have. These are my circumstances. How is that my choice? Somebody who's held captive in a prison always has the choice to try to break out of that prison. The consequences of that action are something different than choice, and it is something we need to consider when we're talking about free will. Consequences don't always have to be bad. The consequence of breaking out of a prison could be that a person finds freedom and lives a long, happy life. Maybe there's a lesson that we've contracted to learn in our soul contracts by trying to break free of the prison. But as humans, we always think in terms of fear on Earth. The choice we fear the most, breaking out of the prison and being killed, to use this example, usually stops a person from even trying. Would you rather live a long, miserable life in prison or try for freedom and happiness? Fear is the common thread throughout all of these topics. In free will, many of us allow fear to stop us from the choice we would rather make. We must not live in fear. We must not let fear stop us. When I started to explore this concept a few years ago when I was in a very deep depression, I thought about my friend Holly. The reason that Holly was my go-to person for this concept is because I really did not like the idea that I created my life circumstances. But Holly's story is so amazing that I could not ignore it. Holly lived in a real-life prison with her abusive husband. She ignored her intuition, she ignored her family and all of her friends that told her that this man was not good for her. She even ignored a near-fatal car accident that was meant to wake her up and leave her then fiance. She went into that marriage full of love and hope and good intentions. What she was met with were difficult situations, control, and abuse. They had an adorable daughter together, and Holly thought everything was going to get better. But you know what? It didn't. And then she sunk into a deep depression because she thought she was trapped in a prison. Then one day, Holly found a card in her purse that her sister had given her months before to a women's shelter. And she decided to follow that gut feeling that said maybe I should call somebody after she had told herself for years and years that she was not in an abusive marriage. Sadly, Holly had been blaming herself for all the marital troubles, and her husband was right behind her blaming her too. When she went to the women's shelter and met with a therapist, Holly was shocked when the therapist held her hand and told her she was indeed in an abusive marriage. Holly didn't want to believe it then either. It took her months to realize how trapped she really was. The scariest thing Holly could ever think of was trying to leave her husband. She knew, and so did her therapist at the women's shelter, that when she tried to leave her husband, that would be the most dangerous time in Holly's life. So they planned Holly's escape. Holly waited until he was out of town, and then she left with their daughter and only half of their things. Holly is an excellent example of leading with love and not fear or anger. 15 years later, Holly is happier than she would ever have imagined back then. Had she stayed and survived, Holly wouldn't be Holly anymore. She'd be a miserable version of Holly, way off of her life path. Yes, other people have done horrible things to us, but it's up to us to choose our path to get ourselves out of those situations from happening again. Through the full use of free will, we are never forced into any choices we have in this life. Holly could have chosen to stay, but in facing her fears, she freed herself. This brings me to section 2. What is intuition? In Holly's story, intuition played a huge role. Holly knew on an intuitive level she was in an abusive marriage, but she kept pushing it away. But let's start with, what is intuition really? Intuition is really our spirit guides talking to us and trying to keep us on our life path. Our spirit guides are very interested in us staying on our life paths because they also are learning from our life experiences. They have the same lessons to learn, but they're doing it through us rather than coming into incarnation themselves. They kind of ride next to us like in a sidecar and give us directions on how to go. Without going into a whole tangent on why they can't speak directly to us, in a nutshell, spirit guides give us messages in a variety of different ways. The higher our vibration is, the easier it is to communicate back and forth with our spirit guides, which is why I'm always saying raise your vibration. Raising our vibration is fairly simple. We just have to stay positive, lead with love, and allow no negativity, anxiety, or fear to drain us. When our vibration is so low that our spirit guides cannot reach us, that's when they reach out to our network of family and friends. Sometimes they even utilize animals in our lives or animals in nature to reach us. Alternatively, spirit guides can also pull other people into our life paths who we don't know. They can also manipulate situations so we can get a clear message of what they're trying to say to us. Knowing full well that we can use our free will and not listen to them, they still try tirelessly to get us to understand. This is all under the umbrella of intuition. Terms such as that gut feeling, or listen to your heart, or I just somehow knew that that was going to happen. Those are all intuitive statements. When it became clear that Holly was going to marry her ex-husband, all of her family and friends were very concerned Her mother was probably the most concerned, but she was afraid Holly would push her away, just like Holly had pushed away all her other friends who said something to object. So, Holly's mother took to praying herself, talking to her guides. She just asked the universe, "Please help Holly, and help Holly understand what's actually happening." A few weeks later, Holly was driving home from work one day when it was raining, and she went to switch lanes and accidentally clipped the car behind her. Holly's car spun out, ended up hitting the median, and then slammed in the side of the road. Holly definitely could have been killed in that car accident. As she crawled out of the car and saw the circle of strangers who had parked and ran over to her to see if she was okay, all she could think was that her fiancé was going to be very upset that she crashed the car. As she explained this to the bystanders, two women pulled her aside and talked to Holly and said, "If you were this concerned about your fiancé and his reaction, maybe you shouldn't be with him." And these are the exact people the spirit guides wanted Holly to talk to, because if she wasn't listening to family or friends, maybe she'd listen to strangers tell her that something was wrong with this relationship. And the reason I think this story is such a great example of how we have free will, but we also write a life plan and have guides to help us, is because Holly ignored so many signs and went into a marriage that was not good from the start. But it was her choice, and nobody can actually stop anybody from making bad choices. Not even the other side, angels, guides, or God. When people blame God, "Why did you let this happen?" God didn't let anything happen. We choose what is going to happen in our life through free will. We also choose if we're going to listen to our intuition or listen to our human ego. We decide which one gets the driver's seat. Here is a quick example of how you can tell the difference between your ego or your intuition. You ask a question of something that's troubling you in your life. The first answer that you receive is the ego. It's quick, it's fast, and it's loud. It's usually the answer that makes you feel good in the short term, but usually has very bad long-term consequences. Your intuition is steadfast and it's quiet. It doesn't go anywhere, where your ego is very impatient and makes you feel anxious if you don't choose the ego. When you listen to your intuition, you listen for that quiet choice. That may not be your first choice, but in the long term, it has a much better outcome. It also is usually the choice that is much more difficult to choose because it has fear, but long term, you know that it's better for you. So if we go back to Holly's story, her intuition had been telling her for years that her husband was abusive and she needed to leave. However, she knew how he behaved when he thought she was leaving. She couldn't imagine how he would behave if she left for real. Holly's reaction was based in fear. It is a reaction we all have when we have those important decisions to make in life. Our human reaction on the ego level is always based in fear as a survival instinct. If a person waits just a little longer to let the ego get their voice out and then listen to their intuition, they will hear the real answer of what they need to do in order to make their life better and move back onto their life path. Here is an important issue, though. Holly being in this relationship with her ex-husband was actually on her life path. It was not a mistake that she interacted with him and entered into a romantic relationship. I'd like all of the people out there who are in these types of relationships to hear me clearly. You did not make a mistake by entering into this relationship with this person. Your only mistake is not learning the lessons you are meant to learn from it. The lessons you are meant to learn from relationships like this, and that Holly learned, was that she was to value herself. She is important. She is allowed to speak her truth without any backlash. You are allowed to speak your truth without any backlash. And as Holly's friend, what I learned was that we can't force anybody to make the right decision. We can be here and love them and support them all the way through their lives, but that's all we can do, is love and support them. We can give them options, like Holly's sister did, giving her the card of the women's shelter, but we cannot force them to make the choice that we know is best. We can wait for them and tell them we're going to be here no matter what happens. For those of you on the outside watching a loved one go through a relationship like this and not understand what they are thinking, let me explain this on the soul level. Holly and her ex-husband made a soul contract before they were born. They both had the goal of learning the lesson of self-love and love towards others through this challenging relationship. However, only one of them actually learned this lesson. Holly learned important lessons in that relationship. Her ex-husband chose not to learn his lessons in that relationship, ignoring his intuition, ignoring all of the signs his spirit guides were probably giving him. And that's the thing with these soul contracts, is that when we're in a tough relationship, that is where we learn the most. There does come a point in difficult relationships where we can choose to sever a soul contract if the other person is not fulfilling their end of the contract. I will get to that later in this video. But before thinking that we need to sever a soul contract, we need to be aware that the lesson always comes right when we think we have no other choice. Holly's lesson was right in that moment when she found the business card her sister gave her for the women's shelter. In that moment, she could have chose to turn away and not take the help, but she chose to take the help and value herself more than her marriage, which she was taught growing up was above everything to make successful. And this type of belief is a belief based on the ego level, where we're making ourselves happy through making everyone else looking at us happy. On the intuitive level, we all know that we need to take care of ourselves first and love ourselves, which is not to be selfish. It's to give ourselves love and then love others. In that moment where Holly found the card from her sister, she finally gave herself an ounce of self-love. Holly ignored her fear and reached out for help. And this is where we see intuition and free will play together in order to better our lives. When we listen to our intuition and then also use our free will in order to follow our intuition, that's the combination we need in order to walk our life path. Don't miss part 2, where the law of attraction plays a part in soul contracts. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss it. Hello, and welcome to Sunday live streams at the Key to Soul Awakening. I'm Stacy, a spiritual powerhouse for those looking to upgrade into the 5D. In my day job, I use my psychic skills and guides on the other side, along with the knowledge I have about clearing karmic patterns and living your highest and best life, to help those who are struggling to find a way back to their happiest life path. That's right, you heard me correctly. I am a psychic medium. I've been a working psychic medium for over 15 years, and like to give a shout out to my father-in-law, who opened the door for this path for me after his passing. Not only do my clients get my personal help, they also get help from the other side while working with me. I'm here every Sunday live streaming at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to answer any and all questions coming from YouTube viewers. They can be questions about your life path, celebrities, current events, pretty much anything underneath the spirituality umbrella. Here's how this works. When you want to ask a question, You put your date of birth and your specific question in the chat box. My husband, Bob, will get the questions in order and send them over to me. I don't see the chat box very much because I'm holding the connection with the other side, and the chat tends to distract me. So when I ask you a question to validate any information, you can go ahead and put it in the chat box, and Bob will send that over to me. After I've answered your question, if you would like to have more information or a session with me, you simply click the link at the top of the chat box that's pinned, with a special rate for those of you who join me on Sunday Live. Now we're about to get started. Have you hit that like button yet and subscribed to this page? And also ding that bell because I go live during the week too, and you want to be alerted when I do. Change this right here to this. Can you hear me? Hear me? Okay, got it. 1 second, please. Okay, cool. I figured it out. All right. So let me just check with Bob that you can hear me. Yeah. Okay, we got it. Okay. All right. So let me tell you what's been going on this morning. The universe has really been testing me with, I don't know. So I had to dump my Facebook live. So if you're here from Facebook, thank you very much for sticking with me. What's happening is that our electricity where we live right now is a little dodgy, and then I think it's messing up the connection between my computer and then my live stream. So if I freeze or if I go away for a minute, just stick around, because then I will. I'm going to come back on. Hey, Tina. I'm going to come back on. And if I'm unable to, I will just put a message under the community tab on YouTube. So I'm Stacy. I'm a psychic medium, and I'm here on YouTube every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. I'm on my Facebook group, which I'm not going to transfer the graphic to because every time I change graphics, my audio goes away. But on Facebook, it's called The Key, THECAY. I'm here to take your readings. I'm going to do free readings for you. I'm also here to talk about what karmic patterns are. Before we do, I'm going to do a prayer. And it seemed as if, and this is interesting, universally for me, was that yesterday when I started to, send blessings to, the royal family and, all of this, Twitter blew up, and we're never going to get into that. So when I started talking about that this morning, every single time my video froze. So if you want to see the video that I made about Prince Harry and, Meghan Markle, I'm going to put the link in the chat box. You can go ahead and watch it yourself. And I'm just sending prayers to the whole royal family because, they're just a family. Remember that. They are a family. And, forget the royalty part. They are a family, and they've just lost a core member who everybody just adored and loved. So send love to them, okay, for me. We're going to get to the prayer in 1 second. I'm going to drop that link into the chat box for you. Evidently, I didn't get it. Hey, Bob, can you get that link, the one that I made yesterday, and it has the red thumbnail, and just put the link into the chat box for me. So if they want to watch that video about Harry and Meghan, they can go ahead and do that. I was not allowed by YouTube to promote it just because they said it was sensitive material, even though I was only talking about, the interview, but whatever. Okay, so let's get to the prayer. I want everybody, I'm literally not going to switch any graphics because this is it. Let me just tell you, I wanted to do it outside. That's my backyard. It is so hot outside that I decided a picture is good enough, and that's what we're going with. So close your eyes, and I want you to think about all of the stress that you've been feeling this week and this past week, and watch it lift up off of you. Just take a deep breath
and feel the stress and all the situations that are stressing you. For example, the fact that my audios keep stopping working. I'm imagining that lift up off of me in a cloud of gray and dissipating into the universe. In trust we are here, Divine Source, in the oneness that is all truth, electrical use that works well, unity, communication, patience, high vibration, and love. We ask that the wholeness of myself, Stacy, and all of those participating and watching, and those who will be watching later, the replay of this, my husband, Bob, and my best friend, who are all being monitors on this channel right now. We ask our spirit guides, our master teachers in spirit, our guardian angels, and our loved ones who have crossed over, please be with us during this transformative assist in our goal to manifest our highest and best life, raise our vibrations, and clear our chakras as we live and breathe. Please allow everyone involved to have the ability to clear their chakras every time they have a positive thought instead of a negative thought. When they do that, their chakras will be cleared and they will be able to feel themselves and their vibrations rise higher and higher. Thank you for this now that we are experiencing together. We send love to all of those who we have harmed in the past and who have harmed us, as we know that love through the universe will protect and heal them, as well as protect and heal us, so we can collectively raise our vibration, which is what is needed on this planet right now, in order to move to a higher level of living, love, and our highest and best life. And so it is. Amen. All right, so here's how this works. If you have a comment, go ahead and put it in the chat box. If you have a question, you put your date of birth and the question in the chat box. If you don't want your date of birth there, put it in one other line, put it in, and when Bob gets it, he'll let you know, and then you can delete your date of birth. I really just need the date of birth so I can link into you and your life path. I mean, I can do that without your date of birth, but it makes it a lot more clear for me to do that if I can see your date of birth. If you have a comment, I do glance over to the comment chat box every once in a while, but like I said on the intro, it does distract me just a tad. Today I'm talking about what are karmic patterns. And although I've talked about this before, I want to go into it a little bit more in depth. Maybe I'll get the, guts to switch graphics, because I made graphics for it too, but if not, just listen, ask questions. All right. So let me go over to, that comment about my father-in-law in the opening always makes me laugh. For those of you who don't know, I have been psychic since the day I was born, and nobody ever really told me that I wasn't psychic. We just never really talked about it. But when my father-in-law passed away, 2 hours after he passed away, and the family was not doing well, and I walked into my home to go feed my dogs, and I heard him call my name. Literally heard him call my name. You know how people's voices sound the same? And I turned around and there he was standing in my breakfast room, and I ran, I think a lot of us would have done. I was scared because I wasn't sure I could do this. I wasn't sure I was psychic, but that was the moment that I realized, okay, so I'm psychic, I'm doing this, all right. I wish I could have gone back and talked to him and see what he was going to say. I know from now he was coming back to say he was sorry, because I believe at the very moment where he realized he was going to cross over, he was like, yeah, I shouldn't be doing this, but it was too late at that point. And he's been with us ever since, trying to help our family, the way a father would, but he's just doing it on the other side. And that's what you need to remember about your beloved ones, is that they're not gone, they're still with you, and they're helping guide you in the way that they would here if they were still with you. All right, so let's get to, I have my cards in my hand. We're going to pull a card. This morning's been quite stressful for me, but let's see what comes up. These cards are oracle cards, and I always pick two that have to do with everybody who's watching. So let's see what's coming up. So the first card I'm pulling is boundaries. The universe is asking all of you how you can establish better boundaries. Here's the card. I know with this virtual background, it's a little interesting. There we go. Boundaries. How can you establish better boundaries in order to, go to your highest and best life? What are you doing in your life that is sacrificing your own, wants and needs that your intuition wants you to do? Think about it then in your life. That card came up for a reason, because there are people watching right now that are overextending themselves and might be a bit resentful for doing that. And if you want to ask me a question, go ahead and put it in the chat box. I'm glad to help you with that, because it has a lot to do with karma, a lot. When we overextend ourselves and hope that people think that we love them and we're good enough because we are overextending ourselves for them, whether or not they appreciate it. Okay, the next card just fell out of my hand, so I always take those. Get grounded. So we need to talk about being grounded in life, and this is an interesting combination. So boundaries, you need to ground yourself, which means when you ground yourself, you basically just go out in nature, like your backyard, in your bare feet, and you just breathe in and you feel your vibration, your etheric body. If you really focus, you can feel your etheric body separated from your physical body. Your etheric body feels like it's like electrical pulses. What you need to do is go ground yourself outside. And the third one is the soul family, and it says you don't have to do this alone. So I'm getting the distinct feeling that a lot of people watching right now feel very, very alone. And what you need to know is you're not alone. And this is why. If we who all listen to this spiritual, sorry, I'm making sure you can still hear me. If all of us who believe in this spiritual stuff, if we all lived in one place, how is that going to help the planet? So we are very much designed to be living in different areas of the earth so we can spread our message of raising our vibration of love and kindness and helping others around the world. So if you're feeling alone, that's okay. Just reach out and try to find people, like this community. I have a Facebook page, THECAY, The Key. It's a private group. Go ahead and join. Make sure you answer those questions. But yeah, we talk about this a lot, how we think we're all separated. And, you don't have to have people right in your physical life in order to feel, that you're worthy of being in this life. There are more of us around than you know, because I live in an area, honestly, I live in a country that is extremely Christian. And I kind of keep to myself just a little bit because I don't need people, because they're very Christian here. I don't need people calling me like a witch. So, and then that's the kind of thing you do. You just kind of, roll with it, and, you live your happy life, but don't ever be ashamed of what you believe and what you know to be true. All right. So let's get to the first step of karma, and then I'll do some readings for those of you who asked. Don't forget to put your question in the comment box with your date of birth. Okay. So what is karma? Okay. So karma generally is shoved into this. I always look at it like a can. It's like a can, and we label it karma, and we shove all of the universal laws in that under this word karma, and that's not at all what it is. Karma is not punishment. Karma is not retribution for anything that you've done. There is good karma and bad karma, but it's not like, if somebody does something really horrible to like an animal, they're going to have something that does really horrible to them back like really soon. It actually goes lifetime to lifetime. So we've created this karma, our karmic patterns in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and it's called this karmic wheel. So we all agreed to come to this planet Earth. Originally, the planet Earth was supposed to be this wonderful vacation spot because it is one of the most beautiful incarnations in all of the universes. So they chose Earth to come after a really, really hard life to kind of recuperate. Then when humans began to develop, karma, when humans started, human nature is to survive, right? Survive any way you possibly can. So, we started this karmic wheel where, we did stuff in our past lives that we now need to balance. And there's that word balance. It's not a punishment. So if we did something in our past life that was not necessarily helpful or kind to other people, we now need to live the other side of that in this life. And it's not a punishment. I try to use an example, such as like if you were, maybe a slave in a last life, if you were, maybe a slave in the Middle East or, in Asia, and you were, captured and owned by somebody else, you could have come into another life where you had the option of owning slaves or the option of controlling a spouse or a loved one in the form of like slavery. And in order to break that or balance that karma, you need to recognize it and release it. And this is what I teach everybody every Sunday in all my videos. And I also have clients that I work with one-on-one, and I teach them how to recognize their karma and release it. What happens when you release your karma is your life completely changes for the better. Every lesson that you learn, you don't have to learn again. So those hard, difficult situations aren't in your life anymore. I've lived this myself. And that's the only reason I've come onto social media, and I never thought I'd be a YouTube person, but because I want to spread the message that this actually works. I changed my life around completely, all due to a spiritual awakening and clearing my karma. So karma really is developed in our past lives. It can be developed in this current life, and if you're really, really tuned in to spirituality and reflecting on yourself, you can see how you develop the karma, and you can balance it almost immediately. I've also done that, and it's interesting. So let's take this example that happened this morning, where my brand new computer with awesome software, like everything should be working, wasn't working. I feel like it's always a challenge for me, and I think it's because one of my patterns that I'm still trying to clear, I almost have it cleared, is this pattern of like frustration, anger, and rage. So if this would have happened to me 2-3 years ago, I'd be a complete like nightmare. I really would have flown off the handle. I would have, temper, that sort of thing. But all I sat here doing was I see it, I feel it, I release it, and it worked itself out. Here we are, right? So one of this I want to go through a set of karma, an example of karma, and I'm going to use a modern example in current events to explain how this karma, you can actually understand it. But let me get to a question and see if I can do a reading for somebody, and then I'll get back to karma. If you have any questions about your own karma or your own situation in life, you can put that in the chat box. I also have a link at the top of the chat box where if you want to make a free consultation appointment with me, just click that link and make an appointment. The link for the Facebook group's also there, and if you would like to make a reading for a psychic reading with me, that's also there too at a discounted rate for my Sunday followers. All right, let's see who is first. That's right, I have to open up that list because I had to restart my computer. So let's see. All right, so I'm gonna put my oracle cards over here. All right, so I have Devanja. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm gonna say Devanja. Birth date, got it. Okay, and you want to know about your love life and your soulmate, got it. Okay, so okay, 1 second, I'm just figuring out the birthday here. Okay, so you're a 4. All right, so you are definitely, the reason you want to know all this is because life paths of 4s are very much needing, no, they don't even need it, they provide it. Like, you provide solid foundations. You are a logical person. People look to you as being very grounded, very analytical, and here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to do to make this happen. If you think about 4 walls in a building, 4 walls in a square, it's a very solid number, the 4. When will you meet your soulmate? Okay, so those are 2 different questions. My guides, I did forget to tell everybody. So I'm not only psychic, but what I work with are my 3 guides. Sometimes there's a few more depending on what's going on in my life, but I generally have 3 guides, and they're usually over here. And the guides will also tell me things that need to be shared, as well as me seeing your life, your future, your past. They'll explain to me a bit about what you need to know right now. And what they're saying to me right now is you need to understand there's a difference between a soulmate and having a nice person to be married to. That's something else that's gotten very, very, very confusing in this pop culture. We all have this idealistic view of how we need our soulmate. How ridiculous is that? Okay, no offense to anybody out there, but listen to me here. How ridiculous is that? That there are how many billions of people on the planet, and how many billions of people that have lived on the planet who are on the other side watching us, but we're supposed to find one person who's our soulmate somewhere? I mean, does that make sense? No, it doesn't. So when we make our blueprint, we make our plan for what this life is supposed to be teaching us, and it's not every single step, it's just major sweeps. When we make our blueprint, we always have a few different people that we could meet along the way that would be lovely people to be married to, lovely people to share our lives with. One's not better than the other. And there's a difference between love and lust, and I think in this, especially in this time, people get confused between that, because people are just very desensitized and overly sexualized with everything going on in the modern times, that you get confused between infatuation and lust versus love. So when you're looking for somebody to marry, when you're looking for somebody to stay with your entire life, it's more important to have that love between you than anything else. Friendship and love. So to answer your question, Devansha, is they're telling me you're looking for perfection. You're looking for somebody who is somebody that it'll make your family proud, and they have very high standards, and somebody that really, I'm really seeing that you're looking for somebody very, very perfect. And we have to remember, I did make another video about this, that when we look for, our soulmate, or somebody who's perfect for you, when you tell the universe you're looking for somebody using that word perfect, they're not going to bring you anybody, because there is nobody who's perfect. So I would suggest you make a list of things that you want in a partner, and make sure it stays positive, not I don't want him, or don't want him to do this, or I don't want him to do that, I don't want, make a list of things like I would like somebody who treats me like a treasure. I would like somebody who has a steady full-time job, secure, and it's not going to go, and it's going to stay. See, I caught myself with that word, not. I'd like somebody with the, perseverance and knowledge to keep that job for a very long time. Okay, so you need to state those in writing without using words like can't, don't want, those sorts of things. That's really what I'm seeing, and that's, and forget the word soulmate. I'm seeing this person actually being in your orbit right now, so you may not actually know this person like very, very well, but they're in your orbit, which means once you change your view on looking for somebody that is who's going to love you unconditionally, okay, remember, you have to love you unconditionally too, but when you find somebody, when you decide you need somebody who's going to love you unconditionally above all else, that's when this person's going to appear. I'm seeing 1 or 2 years older than you. He's not much older than you. Yeah, and that's all they're giving me. And really what they only give me things that, because this is a public platform, they don't really give me much that will, kind of cross that boundary for you, so privacy-wise. But if you have any questions, let me know, okay? All right. Let me see if there's any other questions. All right, so I'll get to the others in a minute. What I want, though, is I want people to understand, think about right now your karmic, think about that word karma for you, all right? When, it makes me giggle on TV when people are like, oh, karma's real. Well, hell yeah, karma's real, but karma is not what you think it is, okay? So the law of correspondence is more of what people really think karma is. Law of correspondence is whatever you put out is going to come back to you. So if you are, upset with somebody, or you're mean to somebody, or you do something to somebody that is unethical, that absolutely will come back to you. That is not karma. That is law of correspondence. Karma is a pattern in your life. So think about yourself as a house, and your foundation of the house, your the building of the house is very strong. I always say we have good bones. Karma is like a very ugly paint job on the outside of the house, and we have layer upon layer upon layer, and it's reminding me of my old house. Not my old house, we still own it, but we had to rip down the wallpaper, and underneath the wallpaper there was more wallpaper, and underneath that wallpaper there was more wallpaper, and then there was the ugliest coat of paint you've ever seen. That's what karma is. And what do you have to do when you strip wallpaper or repaint? You have to scrape it off, right? So anytime you identify a karmic pattern, and I can do this with you if you'd like to work with me, you can make an appointment. At the top of the chat box, I pinned the link for a free consultation for spiritual awakening with me. When you identify a karmic pattern, what you're going to do is all you have to say is, I see it, I feel it, I release it. And that will take a little tiny chip of the paint off. All right. And that's why I say I'm still working on this anger rage pattern, because it was so big and so deep that I'm almost at the end of it. But things like this happen and things like this happen to you too, depending on what your karmic pattern is. Think about what similarities happen in your life. Certain people that are similar that come into your life, certain situations that you think to yourself, why does this keep happening to me? Why can't I meet anybody who's like nice? Why can't I fill in the blank? It's something that keeps happening to you over and over and over again. That's a lesson you're not learning, and that's your karmic pattern. All right. So, and it's not as easy just to think, okay, I know what it is now. So let's just say you attract partners that are, destructive to themselves and then take you down with them. That would be more of a helper pattern where you attract people who need help, and then you end up being kind of like a drowning person, where you go to save a drowning person and then they latch onto you so hard they take you down and you end up drowning too. All right, that's a karmic pattern. And when you start to clear that pattern, those people will no longer be attracted to you in your life, and you'll be able to attract more healthy, solid people into your life. So I'm going to take it a step further. Generational karma. This is a pattern that is, and we don't just have these patterns. We don't just have a karmic pattern that's just ours from a past life. They're passed down through our DNA, through our family line. All right. And I know what you're going to say. Wait, we don't have the same body. We don't have the same, we have a spirit. We don't have the same body. No, but your karmic pattern is within your body. And your body will have that karmic pattern, and it'll show certain physical things. And I always say, this rider here, like, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a medical doctor. A lot of times people need to have medical care and psychological care in addition to spiritual guidance, because your karmic patterns come through physically. So like if you have back problems, okay, the doctors can't really figure out like if there's a disease or anything, you just have back problems. That generally means that you're carrying too much weight in your life. There's too much burden on your life. The right side, the left side is, feminine, masculine. I mean, there's all kinds of things that your body shows you about karma, and that's like a clue. Okay, this is a clue. So if you have chronic illnesses that the doctors don't exactly know what they are, and they just kind of be like, okay, here's what it is, here's some medicine, take it. That's karma. If you have a medical condition that is actually like a long-term disease or something that the doctors actually can treat and cure, you have planned that in your blueprint. That is not karma. So I'm not saying that spiritual guidance or, medicine or psychology is any better than the other one. All three of them are actually great when they work in conjunction with each other. So generational karma is where I'm going to talk about the royal family here, because they're an excellent example of the karmic pattern called the sense of duty. All right, there is that show on Netflix called The Crown, which I'm a little obsessed with, but it's a really good, it's half fiction, but it's a really good representation of this sense of duty, genetic pattern, generational pattern. So you may be holding karma that you didn't actually do in a past life, but somebody in your ancestral line took, and it all gets put in the whole family. So if you clear a karmic pattern, for example, like shame, like I cleared a shame pattern. And when I cleared that shame pattern, I cleared it for all of my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, and up the line ancestrally, my mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, all of mine cleared it for the entire ancestral line, because it just takes one person to do this. It doesn't take the whole family. I do work with several families as groups in order to clear their karma, and I can't tell you the transformation that a family makes when they work with it together. My husband and I did this too, and it wasn't planned. I mean, I totally didn't plan on like Bob, like, you know, starting to clear his karma with mine, but I think he kind of saw like how I was changing a bit, and he thought there must be something to this. And then I would kind of give him clues, like cue, like, you know, you need to release that, this is happening for you. And we kind of did it together, and I think it's made us like stronger together. And I also feel that you know, we understand each other a lot better, and we've been together 19 years now. Well, married. We've been together, honestly, 24. But I think at this point in our life, like, we're closer now than we've ever been. And that's why I always recommend, if you can get your family to clear the karma with you, it changes your life to levels that you can't even imagine. Before, I'm going to get to the royal family in 1 second. Before I started this whole process, I had seen a psychic medium, and he asked me, like, your family has like a dark cloud over them, like the family I was born into. And I was like, well, yeah, everything happened, like everything under the sun possibly happened to my family. I mean, really. And he said, you've really been working like to change a lot. And then all of a sudden he stopped. And this is a very well-known medium. So for him to say this, I was like, wow. He said that really changed you. Like, you've really changed your karma. Like, your path in your life has shifted to such a good place now that if you hadn't done that, you would have gone down the exact same road your family did. And that's what I'm saying to all of you, okay? You may be carrying karmic patterns that are not yours, but it is your responsibility to clear them so you can live a happier life. Okay, so this sense of duty pattern, I have a graphic, but I'm really afraid to change it. Hey, Bob, do you think I can change this graphic? Oh, he may not be here. Let me check with the other one. I'm not going to take a chance. I won't take a chance. I'll show you the graphic later. So, sense of duty. The sense of duty graphic talks about, I'm going to pull it up over here so I can read it to you, but sense of duty is when a person has such a sense of obligation in their life, all right? And I want you to think about The Crown from the Netflix, and it's based on Queen Elizabeth and her family. And this sense of duty is so strong through that family that when I watched the funeral yesterday, I thought, wow, wow. Okay, so a sense of duty shows in a person's life who is a strict rule follower. And how many times have we heard Queen Elizabeth say, crown versus family, the crown always wins? That sense of duty. The person has an innate sense to do what's expected of them and tends to compartmentalize intuition or loving feelings. They tend to be workaholics who say they are working to support their family, but then they have no time to spend with the family. How many people do you know like that? How many people do you know that work really hard to support their family, but they don't actually have any emotional connection with that family? Okay, that's the sense of duty pattern. Hey, lovely symbols. Hey, lovely symbols. Nice to see you. I'll get right to you, lovely, okay? So the sense of duty, this person has deep guilt and is torn between what they know is right and what they feel is right. So if we look at Queen Elizabeth, she knows it's right to go and put the crown first. What she feels is right is to be a loving mother, wife, sister, daughter, okay? And she's done this for 94, almost 95 years. That's an extreme example of this karmic pattern, but this karmic pattern is rather familiar. It's rather, a lot of people have this. A lot of people have this when they think, I need to support my family, or I need to do this, I need to do that. And then they kind of leave the emotional needs of their family to the side. All right. The person also has a core belief that anything they are responsible for is a reflection of them. such as how their children behave or perform in school. I can remember my husband telling me that his parents sat him down once when he was like 12 or 13 and was like, how you dress is a reflection on us when you go out there, and you need to, like 12, 13-year-old boys are like, yeah, I have clothes on, I'm good. Doesn't matter if they look good. That sense of duty, that's an extension of, they look at their kids as an extension of them. And again, the royal family does that. Like how you're supposed to perform in public, how you're supposed to look in public is a reflection on the duty. Tell me know if this makes sense to you. Does this make sense to you in that, you know somebody like this, or you're really resonating with you or identifying this? I am working on a book, and I have about 30 different karmic patterns that I have identified thus far through my clients. And it's fascinating to see the gray areas between all of them, because some of them overlap. But always, 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 when somebody starts to clear a pattern, their life turns so good and different that they always say to me, like, I never knew that this was such a problem, and they didn't have to do anything to change it. All they had to do was recognize it and release it, and their life started to change. One of my favorite clients, honestly, just moved into her own home. She never thought she could own her own home. She always thought everything happened in her life, like, and to her kids, was her fault, even though she never really had anything to do with it, but like she had that sense of guilt that, she should have stopped it even if she didn't know about it or wasn't there. I mean, that's a pattern. And these patterns are here, very briefly. These patterns are here to protect us, because whatever happened to us in our past life was so traumatizing that this pattern was created in order to protect us from having that pain ever again. So the pattern in its naivety is really trying to help us. But in trying to help us protect us from that never happening again, it causes a lot of problems in our current life. Let me know, what issues are you guys dealing with? And I can help you to determine what your patterns are, just kind of on the fly here on YouTube. Let me get to another question, okay? All right, let's see. All right, so I have Lovely. Let me just make sure. I think Bob had to step out. So let me just see if I'm missing anything. Okay, so Lovely, I'm happy to have you back. Hey, Tina. Okay, Lovely. Okay, so she's seeing 44 a lot, or 443 or 44. Okay, so two riders here. Whenever you see numbers and symbols, that generally is a sign from the universe. It's a sign from your guides. It is not a sign from people who have crossed over and loved ones. All right. I'm going to go to tangent here, and then I'm going to answer your question, Lovely. Okay. When you know a loved one is about to pass, try to talk to them and see if you guys can agree on symbols that they'll send you. All right. And keep them to yourself. So I have a friend, I don't know if she's watching, but hey, Katie, hey. So I have a friend whose father was going to pass away, and they agreed on seeing sand dollars. And she never told anybody. That. And we were out one time, and this person came over and was like, and this was like a year or two after her father had passed away. And this girl came over and was like, doesn't this look like a sand dollar? And Katie went completely white, because she said, I haven't heard that word since my dad passed away. So when you know that a loved one's going to pass away, see if you guys can agree on some sort of symbol, that's some random symbol that when it shows up, that's them. Okay? Because just guessing like, oh, that bird means my grandfather, like, try to see if you can organize it a little bit. Now, when you see numbers like this, 44, 1114, a lot of times you see your birthday on the clock, and those are symbols. When you see your birthday, that's a symbol for you to remember that you're here for a purpose. All right, and not to get too, depressed or down. When you see specific numbers, it could mean specific things. So I'm going to tell you first, 444 or fours generally mean solid foundation. They generally mean that you are headed towards like a very steady, you're either headed towards or you're on a very steady path, a path that has a lot of foundation to it, that's solid, that's unshakable. Okay. The other thing that could mean when you see fours, and if it doesn't, it could mean something very personal to you. So are there 4s that are personal to you? Is that number 4 personal to you, lovely? For example, there could be a child who passed away when he was 4. That would be a symbol for you. Or there could be, like the 4th month, April, or the 4th day of the year. Some of them are very personal. So when I see these things that say, oh, this is what this number means, that's what that number means, in general, okay, sure. But you need to think about what it means to you specifically and kind of rule that out first before you go to the general topic. Because, okay, and they're telling me, okay, so my guides are also jumping in here, that you also should define with your guides what kind of signs that you will understand. They may not be able to do them, but you need to say to them, I need signs that are clear and that I will understand what you mean. Because understand that from the higher dimension, this dimension is very heavy, it's very hard to get into. So when you ask your guides for signs, like, they're not going to just pop up and say, hey. I think I've had that happen a number of times, but it's not like conversations. It's a couple words, but it's really a lot of energy for them to do that. So you need to define with them, like, okay, so if I see the number 4, that means, does that mean XYZ? Or, have an agreement with them, or just ask them, give me signs that are clear and that I will understand and recognize what they mean. All right. Does that make sense to you guys? Signs are very personal. So are dreams are very personal. So when people ask me to, do the dream analysis, I definitely have to tap into my psychic abilities and my guides to think about it. Because if I would have that same dream, it would mean something different than if you have that same dream. All right. All right. Yeah, the sense of duty is really, 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 sense of duty is a really big one right now. And it has to do more about how we're living our lives at this point. I always go back to Little House on the Prairie for some reason. But if you think about like Pa Ingalls, like, he had a sense of duty where he was like, he had to go out to the farm and he, did what he had to do to make money. But then he always came home and had fun with his kids. So think about that balance. That's the balance you're looking for. There's another pattern that always comes up a whole lot. I mean, that one would be guilt, shame. You could also have a pattern called, I call it the jellyfish, just because jellyfish kind of float along. All right. So if you're somebody who just kind of floats along with life, and it's like whatever's handed to you, you're going to deal with it, and you're going to kind of, even if you don't really like it, jellyfish, that's the jellyfish, where you have to start making decisions for yourself, rather than just saying, okay, well, this is my life and God never gives you more than you can handle, which I hate that expression, by the way. You need to really make decisions for yourself. And make decisions that have purpose rather than revenge or vindictive nature to them. And that's the big thing, is we don't ever want to have revenge on somebody. What we want to do is, live our life with love, send everyone else love, but understand that sometimes, and this is where I went with Prince Harry and Prince and Duchess Meghan Markle originally, was they left the royal family because he was living by default. Right? He was living by default. He didn't choose that life. Of course, we'd all love that life. We would always love having a life of like palaces and that sort of thing. He didn't choose it. So living a life with purpose is, he did that. He chose to leave and go live a life he, has purpose in. What's happening now, I will briefly say though, is he does not realize the hellstorm he's in the middle of. I really feel bad for him. Because there are definitely some manipulation tactics going on around him, and I don't think they were set out to be there in the beginning, but they definitely are in play at this point. I do have a video on this. I don't know if Bob put that in, but I'll see if I can find the video real quick. I talked about it the other day, and like I said, YouTube said it was too sensitive of a nature, so they were not going to promote it, and I thought, whatever. That I'm not using my money anymore on YouTube. Okay, so here's the link for the video about Prince Harry and Meghan that I did before. Okay. Hey, Christina. I missed you. I'm sorry. Hey, Christina. Christina's a good one with karmic patterns as well. So, let's see if I missed anybody. Nope. Okay. So when you realize that you have a karmic pattern in your life, when you realize that something keeps happening over and over again, and I'm going to use Christina as an example here, and I hope that's okay, Christina. I think it's fine. I mean, she's pretty open. If you ever wonder about my hair, I really want to get one of those microphones that's here because I'm hiding it, and it makes my hair look like Dolly Parton bouffant. But okay. So Christina's a teacher, and she's also has several lovely children, and she tended to feel very guilty when her students and her children both didn't do what she wanted them to do and asked them to do. And then she would feel guilty and say, like, what am I doing wrong that they're not doing anything? And, it took me about a minute and a half to be like, Christina, they're old enough to make their own decisions. I mean, we're not talking toddlers here. Like, this is not your fault. If they're choosing to make other decisions, you are free to take yourself out of that guilt. Think about if you guys are doing that. Are you doing that? Are you thinking that you're the guilt of, somebody else's actions are a reflection on you? Because understand they're never that. Also understand that, I'll briefly go into this because it relates to the next story I'm going to talk about, is that, I don't talk to either one of my parents, and it's not really by choice. They chose not to talk to me to begin with, and I know that makes me sound horrible, but I've long let that go. My parents are who they are, right? And, I have a lot of regret over that, but you have to remember that we all planned our lives together. We all planned, and this is something else I have the ability to do if you'd want to meet with me. I can actually see the agreements that you've made with people in soul contracts and understand why they're in the place that they're in within your life. And the general rule is that the more challenging the relationship, the more adversarial the relationship that you have, is the larger lesson you need to learn. Because generally, the people that you do not get along with, who are always in your life and cause problems, are people you're very, very close with on the other side. And you've chose to come into this life to teach to learn lessons together. So when I think about, and again, my mother-in-law is coming to my mind because she is somebody who I did have a very adversarial relationship with. And when I realized that, this is why we have adversarial relationships with people, I began to think, what am I supposed to learn from this? And I learned that her judgment on me should not define me. All right? How many people in your life do you get mad at because you feel like they don't understand you and they don't define you? And you're taking their definition of you and owning that. I used to do that all the time with my in-laws. I used to think I'm not good enough. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And then I realized I needed to learn that her definition of me didn't matter because that's not me, right? How many of you have done that? How many of you have looked at other people and wanted to be accepted by them so much and then tried to change yourself so they would accept you? And then you end up miserable because that's not you. Let me see if I have any other questions, okay? Yeah, Christina, we do choose our parents before we're born. Okay, yeah, let's get that. We do choose our kids. We do choose our parents. And time does not exist on the other side. So generally, we could actually be asleep and astral travel to the other side and make contracts with, future grandkids, future, business while we're alive, but our soul is somewhere else. It's a really interesting concept to try to wrap your head around. But yeah, we do choose our parents before we're born. When I learned that, and I was in the middle of my, at this point, I just really feel like my parents are dead because I haven't really talked to them for a very long time. But when I started that grieving process for my parents, I kept thinking, why the hell would I choose parents like that? And the reason is because our karmic patterns play out in such a way that we need to live our karmic patterns long enough. It has to do with Saturn returns. I am doing free workshops in September, and I would let you know if you're interested in those workshops, please join my Facebook group because I'm going to have more information on this. I'm going to explain all about these karmic patterns. But when we have a Saturn return, which is generally around 26, 27 years old, we have lived all of that karma that we planned for ourselves to live out in this life. So I chose my parents in order to let my karmic pattern play out. My karmic pattern basically said, love me, reject me, abandon me, and forget I'm even alive. All right. And that did. It wasn't just my parents. Every single member of my family is gone. They're either dead, they've left. I don't have family left. And that was my karmic pattern. It was love me, reject me, abandon me. Actually, it was love me, harm me, reject me, abandon me, over and over and again. Until when I realized that this karmic pattern was in my control, not their actions were in my control. I'm not taking responsibility for the things that they did, but I placed myself in those positions because I had this pattern I needed to recognize and release and get out of. So yeah, Christina, you're right. We do choose our parents. Our children choose us. So I make it a habit to always tell my kids, thank you for choosing me to be your mom. And I don't think they really knew what I was talking about when they were little. They were like, yeah, right, mom, whatever. They're starting to understand it now. Because they have their own lessons to learn. They have their own karmic patterns to get through. And, we all play that role for our children. So when the kids get to an age where, you're not really in charge of them anymore, like your toddlerhood, they're making their own choices based upon their own karmic pattern, which they will start to face in the mid-20s. All right. And just be ready for that, because when you're in your mid-20s, you get to I've never met one person who hasn't had this happen. Between the ages of 26 and 30, something happens that makes you think, do I really want to live my life this way? Ordinarily, most people turn and go, yeah, I'm living my life this way. I'm not doing it right. I'm going to try harder, which is not what we're supposed to do. What we're supposed to do is go, okay, so what is it about my life that I don't like? And what is my intuition telling me? And I've talked about ego versus intuition in other videos. So if you have questions about that, I could explain that as well. This is really, Tina, it is really hard to watch them in pain. And, Tina's another one of my clients. Tina has, honestly, I think Tina started with me in a very low place. And, she can jump in here. But Tina also has changed a whole lot in that she's starting to look at things more positively. And her kids are going through some things, but we all went through things. And my advice to Tina for some of these issues that she brings to me about her children is that, they need to learn their own way, and we need to take ourselves, especially when they're 15, 16, 17 years old. We can't control them anymore. Like, they're making their own choices. They're supposed to make mistakes. Right? So, we all did. Did we all make mistakes? Yeah. But in that age, 14, 15, 16, 17, I always advise, and my kids are in this age group too, that I don't overly control what they do, because when they turn 18, they're going to have the choice to do whatever they want. And our job here as their parents is just to love and support them. Look how many times people go to college and they change their majors, right? Like, how many of you changed your major in college? I changed mine 3, I think. So, they may think at age 14, 15 what they want in life. By the time they're 20, 25, 30, that will not be the same anymore. And it's our job just to stay supportive and loving and accepting of whatever happens, and withhold that judgment. Judgment is also a very large karmic pattern. So if you feel judged, or you're judging other people, that's a karmic pattern. And that's something for you to recognize and release. That's actually a really big one. A lot of people feel judged, and they don't realize that they actually do a really good job at judging other people too. So if you feel like you're not good enough for somebody, that's called unworthiness, and it always comes with a rider of judgment. I'm going to pull up my list of master. I wasn't going to do this, but I will do it, because it seems like a good conversation. Let's see. Hey, Brooke. I'll be with you in 1 second. So, honestly, I've been with clients for so long that, I am writing a book. I have a master list of patterns that generally, we don't just have one pattern. We have several patterns. There's usually one umbrella one, and then that's the one you start with. And as you start with that one, things disintegrate, and then you find the little ones underneath it that are troublesome, but not really. The really big one is the one that paralyzes your life. And to give you a brief background about me, I got to the point where I felt like both my parents were narcissists, but I got to the point where I felt that there was no point in me living anymore if my parents didn't acknowledge me, didn't love me, didn't want to talk to me. I wouldn't even get out of bed. I mean, I know there's a lot of you who have had that level of depression where it's like, what's the point of getting out of bed? I've gotten to the point where it's like, even if I got out of bed, I was really mean to everybody because I thought I had a pass because I was in so much pain. And, you know, I mentioned my father-in-law earlier. My father-in-law did kill himself. And I think about him every day because the level of pain he was in, I don't fault him at all for what happened. And I just wish I would have known now, what I know now would have known then, because I think I would have been able to help him a lot more. And the same goes for one of my uncles who was an alcoholic, and he passed away extremely young. And I wish I would have known then what I know now, because, you know, and I think that's why I'm here talking to all of you, because I couldn't save them. And I want to tell all of you that you are supposed to be in this planet. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to learn lessons. It's not supposed to be easy, but it's also not supposed to be paralyzingly difficult. And I've been there. Paralyzingly difficult. We're just thinking about getting out of bed was monumentous. I mean, you know, everyone give props to Bob for sticking with me for so long. On that note, my son's 16th birthday is today. So if everyone wants to wish my son, Luke, a very happy 16th birthday when we get off here. We have a little celebration going on. I can't believe it's been 16 years. I mean, how many of you guys know that? Like, you've had kids and it just feels like you blink. And if you look at that intro video that I did in the beginning where it's like, welcome to Soul Awakening, he's the little kid in the little snowsuit when I ask him to say mommy, and he's like, buddy. That's my 16-year-old. I mean, I look at that and I'm like, I can't believe it feels like yesterday. All right, so yeah, I mean, there's a whole, control is a big one. Control is a big pattern. I'm going to get back to this in 1 second. Let me answer Brooke's question. Just make sure I don't have anything else. Okay, so I did Christina's. I did lovely. Okay, Brooke. Brooke, your name is jumping off at the page at me. And I saw it earlier. Let me figure out why that's happening. So my guides generally, when they have, and this happened with 2 other of my clients, that when they came to me on my YouTube channel, their name like kind of brightened up. And that's what's happening with Brooke right here. So let me see what's going on. Okay, what are you asking me? Okay, that's why they're saying, okay. Brooke, Brooke, what is it about your life that you feel like you're responsible for? You're taking on all this responsibility for how, and they're literally telling me how life turned out, and there's regret and grief. There's something, what are you not facing? You are especially somebody I would like to talk to. If you could make a comment, if you could make an appointment at the top link at the above, to have a consultation with me. My guides are definitely telling me that you definitely need to meet with me. It's no cost. Just make an appointment. There's something about life itself, Brooke, that yeah, you just keep saying, I wish I would have done it better. I would have done it better. And they're saying to me that you had no responsibility. Oh my God. Hold on. Brooke, the level of grief you're feeling right now is really, and they're telling me that this wasn't for you to take on. This situation wasn't for you to take on, but you've placed yourself in the middle of this situation, thinking that you could control it and make it better. Well, you may not have had the easiest childhood, but it wasn't childhood. It was definitely like midlife, very chaotic. If you can add details, if you feel comfortable adding details, go ahead. I'm going to figure out your life plan right now, but I'm definitely feeling, yeah, because when you messaged earlier and I saw your name, it like leapt out at me. So let me figure out your taking care of a disabled husband and daughter. All right. So Brooke, I'm going to ask you, how much guilt do you have about your child being disabled? There's something inside of you that makes you feel, that's making you think like this was your fault. Like, and I've been there. I mean, hello, autism. I have been there. I've been through that guilt where it's like, you know, it was my genes, my gene pool that did this. That was one of the other reasons where, you know, when I was going through the depression, I just thought, why did I do this to my kids? And and through the spiritual awakening, I realized I didn't do this to my kids. Like people with disabilities, Brooke. Okay, Brooke, here's what I'm going to tell you. People with disabilities come into this lifetime choosing to be disabled because, again, we choose our parents, we choose our children, we choose the name, the day we're born, what we're going to do, where we're going to live, what time period we're going to live in. Those with disabilities are higher level spirits, all right? So I have 2 boys with autism. And I'm always amused because they look almost exactly alike. It's like the before and after, and it's just amazing. But yeah, there's certain level of guilt you have as a parent that's like, what could I have done differently? What did I do to make this happen? You didn't do anything. These souls who are disabled come into this lifetime specifically to experience a lifetime of disability because they are higher level souls. So to bring this down to how we can understand this, like we're all in 3rd and 4th grade on planet Earth, okay? Planet Earth, 3rd, 4th grade, we're humans, generally no disabilities. We might have a few, like I have ADHD. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but you know, the people who come in with disabilities that need a moderate to severe level of support are like in grad school on the soul level. So they come down to this lifetime not to really learn much themselves, although they do. They're here to teach us unconditional love, patience, acceptance of other people. So you're taking on this guilt, definitely taking on some guilt going on here, and you need to let that go. And when I say let it go, I'm not saying that flippantly. I'm not like just let it go, move on. No. Every time you feel guilt, I want you to say, I see it, I feel it, I release it. And then choose. I'm choosing to be a loving, caring mother, and I'm choosing to be unconditionally loving of myself. And again, your husband you're taking good care of him the best way you can. And if he needs extra help, that's fine. Again, this has nothing to do with you other than learning how to unconditionally love yourself and love them. And guilt and despair and anxiety, those are all negative feelings that we have that need to be recognized and released because they don't do anything good for us. Does that you make sense, Brooke? See if you can make an appointment with me because I would love to talk to you more. If that link at the top is not working, let me know because I will put it in again. Somebody said yesterday it wasn't working, but I thought it was fine. Thanks, Christina. Yeah. So, I haven't said that yet. Yeah, life's supposed to be challenging, guys. Life is supposed to be challenging. I had somebody comment kind of flippantly back on me, I think on Twitter or Instagram. Twitter, I'm like, I don't even know why Twitter exists. People are so mean. But somebody commented on one of my posts because I was like, life's not supposed to be easy. We're supposed to learn from those challenges. And somebody wrote me back and was like, yeah, if I would have planned my life, I would have planned it a lot easier. No, you wouldn't, because why would you be here if you didn't need to learn something? So any challenge you face, the first question you need to ask yourself is, what am I supposed to learn from this? How am I supposed to better myself in this situation? All right, let me look at the, oh yeah, Brooke, let me do your life path real quick. I'm going to look at where we are with karmic patterns and see if there's anything else to add. If you have questions, add them. I can tell you more. And the links at the top. You can make a psychic reading session with me. I have a special rate for people who are on my Sunday lives, usually $85. I took it down to $30 for people who are here. And also the link to schedule a free consultation with me so I can talk to you about how I can help you specifically. And if you want to check out my Patreon, it's patreon.com/thekey, where I have a special going right now, and it's going to end the end of April. It's $15 per month, where you'll just have messaging ability with me. And if you want to have one-on-ones, the rates are a bit higher, and generally I work that out. If like people can't afford that sort of thing, like, just talk to me and I can help you out. Okay. All right. So Brooke. Okay, you're a 4-2, Brooke. Very, very stable. Yeah, Brooke, you add that stability into your family. That's exactly why you're a 4. That's why you plan to be a 4. And I feel like you're always on the move too. Like you always have to be doing things. You don't like to be sitting and being bored. It's like things have to you constantly have to keep your hands busy. And I really feel that that's because you don't want to sink into this feeling of regret, or maybe that you're at fault for some things, because you're not at fault for things at all. I mean, at all. I think you've been a really major rock in your life, in the life of the people who are in your life. So focus on that, okay? All right. Okay, it didn't work. Okay, hold on. Let me that's so weird because it's the same link. I'll just pull it down. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so here's the link again. There you go. And here, this one's for the psychic reading. Yeah. This one is for if anybody wants a psychic reading, because the free consultation is just talking about karma and how I can help you with karma. The psychic reading is where I will really go into, people have crossed over and what I'm seeing, timeline-wise, future-wise. I'll talk about timelines at some other point because they're really complicated. But let me go back to, if I got everything. Victimhood, I think I talked about that already. I'm just going to go right over one more thing. So when you look at your life, to determine your patterns, what you want to do is look at your life and think about how you feel. It's not exactly what happens, it's how you feel when situations or people or certain life events happen, and you have that same feeling of mine used to be anger all the time. Seriously, I was so pissed off at the world. I was very, very upset with life in general right before I started this spiritual awakening. And if it weren't for my friend Holly, who pointed me in the direction that she did, and her support and Bob's support, I'm not actually even sure I'd be here anymore, because I was so just done with life that, I really had to. And here's the thing, when you clear your karmic patterns, is you have to really, when you get really deep into this, it's not what everybody's done to you. Because like I said, I don't take responsibility for anything that anybody's done to me, okay? But it is my responsibility in order to clear it, to live a happy life. And I like to say, when things happen, they don't happen to us, they happen for us. And for somebody like me who was, and I can't say this on YouTube or they'll flag me, but somebody who was ABUSE in a very intimate way from very little on up through my teenagehood, it's very hard to think that those kind of things happen for us. What was happening there when you're little and things happen to you, that's your karma just kind of working out, and that's that other person's karma that they didn't deal with. So, like I had an uncle who, did not great things to me, and I think that had more to do with him than me. So I don't choose to take on that anymore. I will probably end the live stream in a few minutes, but I want to end it with this. I don't think of myself as a survivor. Okay, so if you've been through what I've been through, and I know a lot of people have been through a lot worse than I have, but I don't think of myself as a survivor, and here's why. If I was a survivor, I would have to be a victim. I'd have to continue to label myself as a victim at some point. And in labeling yourself as a victim, you're holding yourself back from a very good life. You're holding yourself back from your own happiness. So when I let go of the thought that I'm a current victim, that is when my life started to get better. When you are in a position of being harmed or used or abused, yeah, you're a victim. Things are happening to you, but you take that time to heal. You take that time to step forward and, do what you need to do to move on and heal from that. But you have to let it behind you. You can't keep constantly saying to yourself, oh, things always happen to me. Look what happened to me when I was little. Things keep happening to me. The reason they keep happening is because you're holding on to that label of a victim, and that's going out into the law of attraction and telling the universe you want more people to victimize you, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to happen. So when you move into this process of clearing your karma, it is very important that you look at yourself, and I did this too. I looked at myself and I thought, how did I create a lot of this in my life when I was 36 years old? Because I was no longer being, victimized. I was no longer being, abused. I was, 36 years old with kids and a husband, but I was still labeling myself that way. So when you're ready to move on into a life, into a high, happy, high vibration, it's time to put a period at the end of this is what happened to me. Sure, that is what happened to me before. That is no longer who I am. It is no longer how I live. Because if I chose to live with that kind of a vibration of, oh, look at this, look at that, my vibration would definitely not be as high. I manifest things every single day just because I keep a high vibration and a positive attitude. And you can get there too. I have a long list of clients that I've helped do this. If you're interested in having me help you with your karmic situation, your spiritual awakening, go to the link that I just put at the bottom of underneath. You know what? I'm going to pin it at the top, I think. I'll pin this at the top, okay? The new link at the top is what I pinned. Make sure. So you want to, yep, there we go. The link at the top is where you make an appointment with me in order to schedule time with me to talk about your specific situation. You all have specific situations. Nobody's the same. We are all here to learn different things, but if we want to put it under one umbrella, remember this. We are all here to learn how to love everybody unconditionally, but you can't love anybody unconditionally, and you can't bring anybody into your life who loves you unconditionally until you love yourself unconditionally. Remember that, okay? All right, well, it's been great talking to all of you. I hope to meet some of you this week and next. Please make an appointment with me. I'm here every Sunday at 11:30. I'm also over on the Facebook group. I'm going to try to change the graphics so you can see it. The Facebook group is called The Key. Here it is. Hope you can still hear me. This is a Facebook group I'm on every day. I answer questions. I go live there specifically. So make sure you answer the questions. All right, so make sure you like this live stream and you subscribe to my channel, and I will make sure that I get back. You can message me on Facebook. You can make an appointment with me. I look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you so much for joining me.